Hello, folks. Happy 4th. Happy Independence Day. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, AEW in Love. Here to provide your AEW Dynamite review for July 3rd, 2024 edition. As I think we can safely say, that was the best edition of Dynamite we've seen in quite a while, especially the ending. So we had three big segments that really carried the show, and yeah, AEW Dynamite was very good. Might as well talk about the biggest things that were on Wednesday's show before we get into everything else. So first, the Wildcard, which in the Owen Hart tournament for the men was revealed on Wednesday for Beach Break. So it was wild speculation, especially with Ospreay losing on Sunday. There was always that chance of him losing and then perhaps he goes on, wins this tournament, and that's how he finds his way to another match and wins in the main event of Wembley, and there we get that. Christian Cage was another name I floated around, which, I think some people thought as well as a possibility because, again, working relationship with the Elite. And, of course, Christian, even though the Patriarchy are vying for the Trios Championships, yeah, Christian Cage would like another shot at the World Heavyweight Championship, but it was not Ospreay, it was not Christian Cage, it was the favorite, pretty much the betting favorite, Hangman Adam Page. Yes, Cowboy's back in AEW as he has finished serving his suspension since Revolution. So yeah, it's been about 4 months without Hanger, but nonetheless, great to see him back. Now, there was speculation as to how he was getting branded because, last time we saw him was in that triple threat against Joe and Swerve at Revolution, and, he was going wild, attacking referees, and looking very heelish. And, with Blood and Guts coming up in a few weeks, question would be, where does Hangman's loyalties lie? And we got a hint of that because, he came out in new music, still with that mustache, still with that demeanor, angrier Hangman, and he just it was a solid match with Jeff Jarrett. I will give credit to that. But we knew Hanger was going to come out victorious. I mean, there was always that speculation of something happening, but Hanger winning was the right outcome, and it's great to see. Now the other thing which was interesting regarding Hanger on the show was afterwards he was in the back with Renee, and the Young Bucks came up to him saying that no need to thank us for lifting your suspension and putting you in the Owen. And Matt Jackson blatantly asked, with Blood and Guts being a few weeks, are you going to be our fifth man? And Hangman violently grabbed him and said, I'm not your puppet. I'm not the Elite's man anymore. I'm not a child. I am in the Owen. I'm going to win the Owen. Simple. Now, Swerve, it's interesting because the winner of the Owen Hart Cup tournament will face Swerve in the main event of Wembley. And of course, the last time we heard from Swerve about Team AEW versus the Elite, he said that next time they have Team AEW for something, they better make sure that I hate this camera it's on and off. So if you're wondering why I put my hand up like this, sometimes it helps. So, just if you're wondering. Anyways, so it's interesting because going into All In last year, besides MJF and Adam Cole, there wasn't really story or build for a lot of those matches. It's like Samoa Joe and Punk. The Elite, the Golden Elite versus Bullet Club Gold. I mean, just a lot of those matches on the card did not really have much build, and Tony Khan took obviously backlash for that. And many of us knew it, Young Bucks and FTR, that they're not a lot of build going into All In. But with what we saw last night is that All In is looking like much better as far as story-wise and just build all together. So yeah, Hangman first. Next up was Britt Baker, Dr. DMD. She returned at Forbidden Door after Stephanie Valkyrie lost to Mercedes Moné in that tall versus tall matchup. And this go around, Britt Baker was in the ring talking about her recovery process and being back. And she had a great segment with Mercedes Moné. And you look at the women's side, you look at both women's title matches, thinking about going to All In. It's like we may very well get Toni Storm and Mariah May, assuming Mariah May wins the All In for the women. Mercedes Moné versus Britt Baker. Can't do much better. So that'd be great. But yeah, Britt was out there and she was interrupted by Mercedes, who was greeted by the Bucks. So, you know, Mercedes is best when she's a heel. And she really amped it because she did get some boos, a good part of boos on Sunday. And to the point that last night she even got shut the F up chance. And you know, as a heel, that's the number one. So, very good. But the ending. So, MJF last week had a bit of a heartfelt segment with Daniel Garcia to the point where he challenged Garcia to a match at All In, and then was upstaged by Will Ospreay, who challenged Daniel Garcia to a match for the International Championship, which took place last night in last night's main event, which was a very skillful match. And MJF denied, the challenge, as Daniel Garcia was talking about it. He mentioned it early in the show, and MJF said, "Don't worry about that, worry about tonight, and I'll be in your corner." So, the ending. So, MJF offered his Dynamite Diamond ring to Daniel Garcia, and Daniel Garcia was conflicted. He denied it, using it, and gave it back to MJF, which prompted Daniel Garcia to be blasted with a flying elbow or a big hidden blade, which allowed Ospreay to retain. Afterwards, Garcia was dejected and was consoled by both Ospreay and MJF. Afterwards, as MJF was consoling Garcia, you knew it as soon as he put his hands on Garcia's shoulders. That swift low blow, and prompted a brutal beatdown on Daniel Garcia by MJF. Leaved him bloody, and he got stretchered out, gurneyed out of the arena. Ospreay was pissed. Daddy Magic Matt Menard, he was busted up. Our scumbag is back. Our scumbag is back. Now, look, MJF, when he made his return, you knew he was going to get cheered. And, it sucks because Adam Cole, again, we still don't know how long he's going to be hurt. And MJF, we know, is best when he's a heel. And that was just a great way to end Dynamite. I don't know what to say. And just builds fuel to the fire for MJF versus Ospreay at All In. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. Why? Obviously, people are disappointed that Ospreay won't be in the main event and for the world title. So, in a predominant, program, looks to be first MJF. Can't be much better. Can't be much better. Great to see. So yeah, those were the main big parts of Dynamite, which we'll get into all that more on the review. But thank you all for joining me. Last, before I do so for the review, thank you all. If you haven't already, again, subscribe, buttons in the corner, notification bell as well. Find out when I exactly post these videos, but yeah, nonetheless, you guys get the note, you guys get the jazz. So thank you. Let's get going. So I mentioned that was the start of Dynamite, as in Garcia is in the back with Daddy Magic, Matt Menard, and he said that he was not losing tonight. He was not losing. And MJF came in the picture and talked about his praise for Garcia. Garcia wanted to chime in again about the challenge made by MJF for All In Wembley. And MJF was like, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. What you need to focus on is tonight. And as for tonight, I'll be in the corner. So then Garcia left, and Menard was like, well, based on how you've gone about Garcia the last couple weeks, you're cool with me. You have my respect. So fist bump. There was that. First match of the evening. You cannot have started better. Semi-finals in the Owen. Bryan Danielson versus Pac. Pac defeated Claudio last week. Bryan defeated Shingo Takagi on Sunday. You just knew this was going to be a fun match, and indeed it was. As, a lot of back and forth, which, appreciate between these two. Excalibur noted that this is only the third time these two have faced in one-on-one action. So, skillful to see. Good to see. And pretty interesting, as so last week Pac defeated Claudio with a crucifix roll-up pin, and Bryan, a callback to last week, how Pac won last week. Bryan upstage Pac this week, as Pac had the Brutalizer locked in, and Bryan was making note about his neck, how it wasn't great. So the Brutalizer definitely paid a toll, and then Bryan transitioned to the label lock of his own for the finish. There was some back and forth. Ultimately, Bryan won with a crucifix pin and pinned Pac to advance to the finals of the Owen. Great stuff there. I mean, obviously I'm torn. Because before the wild card, this looked like Bryan's tournament to win. But we know with Bryan, he has not won a championship yet in AEW, and we know his full-time career is winding down. So, yeah. Will Nightingale, she was backstage talking about Chris Statlander and her semifinal matchup late in the show. So, Willow talked about smiles and fanatics and stuff like that being her mantra, being her way of life, saying that she's been down. Talked about Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway picking on him, or them, or her, I should say. And, you know, it's a vector, but there's no running tonight. And as for tonight, she's going to kick some ass and move on into the Owen Hart, on to the finals of the Owen. Mark Briscoe, bit of a surprise. So I did not see the pop-up for, because apparently they said that the first guy for Team AEW was going to make his presence known. So I was confused why Mark Briscoe was out there. So he was in the TNT title ladder match on Sunday. The Ring of Honor World Champion Mark Briscoe talked about Chicago, talked about the Elite, talked about Jack Perry. Talked about he's very skillful, speaking of blood and guts. Talked about it in a couple weeks and declared himself as the first guy for Team AEW. So, this obviously, if there was one thing about the show that I think people were conflicted about, certainly was this. So, Young Bucks have touted they want AEW's best and Blood Guts. And now I know there's still a number of injuries in AEW. You know, Eddie Kingston, you know, Hobbs, etc. Adam Cole, I mentioned. The thing though is, this about Team Elite versus Team AEW. At the end of the day, although Mark Briscoe has been a favorable person for AEW, and it's great that to have him on TV whenever, because I mean, Warner Brothers should have had the Briscoes on a long time ago, but unfortunately what happened to his brother, and now, but thankfully we saw Mark on TV when it can. But at the end of the day, Mark Briscoe is the Ring of Honor World Champion. The Ring of Honor World Champion doesn't feel like Team AEW, is my concerned. That's just my gripe about it. But nonetheless, I'm glad to see Mark Briscoe when he can. That's bottom line. So, after he made his speech and declared for Blood and Guts, Jack Perry, the new TNT champion, blindsided him with the TNT title, laying out Mark Briscoe, leading to a save by Kyle O'Reilly, who, of course, they've been friendly as the last couple weeks, teaming together in numerous matches and segments. Kyle O'Reilly made the save only to be shunned by Kazuchika Okada, who, every time you see him, it's just great. Him being a heel, just great. So, Young Bucks came in, and then we saw a shot of them all holding their titles in the air, and it was unique because the Elite, the new Elite, now have all gold. But yeah, the question is, so they made it 5-on-5. Did they need to? No. So the question is, who will be the Elite's fifth guy, and who will the other four for Team AWB? I imagine the Elite or the Acclaimed will be in there. You'd be disappointed if Billy Gunn was in Blood and Guts. So that makes 3. Now with Mark Briscoe, the question is, who are the other 2? Kenny Omega, does he return? Again, another injury. We don't know. Because Kenny could come back and then prompt for this Okada feud leading up to Kenny versus Okada at All In. That's the thought. Tony Storm and Mariah May. So, Tony was asked about her match with Mina, and the makings on Sunday. Said that it's alright. She was, petting Mariah May. She was talking about Mariah May's match against Hikaru Shida in the semifinals on Friday on Rampage. And Toni Storm reiterated her how dangerous Shida is, and made sure that she has to win. She still will love her if she doesn't, but reiterated that she must win. That Tony will be watching and Mina will be watching via satellite. So then Mariah aerated the lines. Chin out, tits out, and watch her shoot. And Luther just held his head, and that was how the segment ended. Yeah. Should be a fine match. Mariah May versus Shida. But yeah, Mariah May, for all intents and purposes, is going to the finals. And then speaking of the women's own, we go to the semifinals with Chris Statlander and Willow. Now, I think a lot of people went with the idea of Chris Statlander wins here, and we get Chris versus Mariah May in the finals. my were we wrong. As Stokely, it's always great to see Stat, but Stokely, it was funny. He unintentionally cost Statlander the win here. So Stokely was on the apron arguing, and there was friendly fire between Stokely and Statlander, ultimately leading to a roll-up surprise victory from Willow from the win. So Willow now is going to the finals next week to face the win, all likelihood, Mariah May in the finals. Now, here's my guess. So, they want to give Statlander a big win. And, you know, this isn't the first match, you know, judging from it. And, you know, it's only possible as well, you know, they built Mariah May as a heel, even though she's kind of a tweener, it feels. But there's that face versus heel dynamic, Willow versus Mariah May, and it's totally possible that we get Statlander and Stokely. Perhaps they cost Willow the match next week, and sets up for a match between Statlander and Willow at All In. That's the thought. And then Statlander ultimately gets her big win there. We'll see. Jeff Jarrett was emotional backstage, but ultimately went to Britt Baker. Britt Baker was introduced by Tony Schiavone. Britt talked about past, present, and future, saying they know her past, but obviously people were wondering why was Britt not there, you know, where's Britt? Is she hurt? Fact is, she was. And Britt said she would look into the mirror and say she's fine. Says that 2 herniated discs won't bother her. But she noticed that one day she couldn't even open a bottle of water, and her right side went numb. So she went to the doctors. You know, she said she's not fine. Tony Khan basically told her, you know, let me know when you get better. And Britt turned out she had a mini stroke. So she was out for a while, a good while, and it's good to see her back. It's good to see her healthy. And so she was out there, talked about present, appreciate what you have, and that, you know, how she's healthy, how she returned at Forbidden Door, but she was nervous. She was nervous for people to care about her, and, you know, just have that feeling again of being on the stage. Yeah. Future talked about her motivation, and talked about the CEO now of AEW, in particular Mercedes Moné, talked about, influencing the crowd to chant 3 letters when they pipe into her theme music, but knowing how the only 3 letters that matter in AEW are DMD, and they don't need music for that. So all of a sudden we hear horns, and Mercedes comes in with an SUV and introduced by a driver, and she meets up with the Bucks, saying it's great to see her, all that jazz, your celebration awaits. So the Young Bucks prompted for ringside crew to set up balloons and stuff for celebration. So yeah, ringside crew, they got balloons and stuff, they set up all the corners. I mean, it was, while Britt is standing in the ring, she didn't leave. And Mercedes made her way. Interesting note. So if you were wondering why there was so much bleeping at the start of the show, this was why. Because there was a lot of words in this promo back and forth, as talked about being upstage on Sunday, so she upstaged Britt tonight, or last night, and Britt basically challenged her to All In, saying that she was the first woman to go All In on AEW. She was at the first All In 2018, so that she was at All In last year, while she was Mercedes looked like a broken bitch in the crowd and with a broken foot. So Mercedes versus Britt challenged for All In, and Mercedes basically said, there's a price to pay when you mess with Mercedes Moné. So Britt left. There was that. First real match being talked about for All In. That's a good thing for Wembley. Great stuff. Great stuff. Samoa Joe. So, the learning tree. Hi guys. Yeah. Chris Jericho. So he was out there. Had an order from the Bucks that Taz was supposed to leave the arena because Samoa Joe and Hook and Shibata, their match against the Kids of Agony, was up next. So security had Taz, out of the building. So after Taz was escorted out, Chris Jericho's on commentary for this trios match. Cage of Agony versus Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shibata. Interesting trios match. Again, interesting the way they're going with the trios, because you got the Patriarchy, you got Blackpool Combat Club, you got World Cup Gold, or the Bang Bang Gang. It's interesting, but yeah. So, decent match here, but in the end, Joe, Hook, and Shibata locked in stereo chokes to all members of Cage of Agony, and Brian Cage tapped out or passed out, and there was that. So there was that. And afterwards, so They were prompting Jericho, who was on commentary, and then Big Bill came up from behind with a chair, same with Ron Keith, and laid out an attack on Joe, Hook, and Shibata. And in the end, they put Hook through a table. So this feud still going on. So it appears. Afterwards, the Wizard came out as Jericho threw a fireball in Hook's face. Jeff Jarrett versus the Wildcard. Hangman and Page, the final quarterfinals matchup in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. Winner faced Jay White in the semifinals on Collision. So, Jeff Jarrett made his entrance. He was emotional earlier. He was out there. They were talking about, well, they were boasting up Jeff Jarrett. Basically, trying to make this, work. So, as soon as people saw a cattle or a buffalo or horse on the Timetron, they knew. And then they show Hangman on Page's name, and it's this eerie kind of country theme music. Just different. And it's darker, the lights, the smoke. Hangman, his demeanor. He's still got the stash, Excuse me. Looks the same as when we saw him last time, and good with the change. So, this was a fun match. Certainly was a fun match, but we certainly saw in the end Hangman's change in demeanor. So, finish of the match came when Hangman hit a buckshot lariat, knocked down Jeff Jarrett, and instead of going for the cover, he beat down on Jarrett a little bit more, and then hit a dead eye on Jarrett for the victory. So, yeah, Jeff Jarrett doesn't get out of the first round. Hangman beats Jeff Jarrett in a fun match. Yeah. Ultimately, right outcome. Hangman is going to face Jay White on Collision. It's going to be fun. Because we all love Jay White. And we all love Hangman. And we love to see Jay White in the finals of Bryan. That would certainly be a fun match. But Bryan versus Hangman right now makes more sense. Hangman, of course, has history with Swerve. We saw it in the vignette on Saturday. So, sucks for Jay White. I'm sure Christian Cage will make his presence felt in that match. Then I mentioned with the fireball, and then Hangman with the box. So, I'm curious. Does Swerve declare for Blood Guts, and that prompts Hangman to be the fifth guy? because they'll play us out. I guess. We'll see. Main events. Daniel Garcia versus Will Ospreay. MJF in Ospreay or Garcia's corner. Fun match. Fun main events. As expected. Daniel Garcia, he's not there, but again, like I said last week, he's on his way. And this ending will certainly make you more sympathetic for Daniel Garcia. But yeah, this one match, so there was one point where Garcia was literally dancing in Ospreay's face and just looked over at MJF, and MJF was like, okay, get you. Keep going, you know, the crowd is eating up, loving you. So, the finish match came as Garcia had a big move. Referee was down or was distracted, and MJF gave his ring to Garcia. Garcia was looking around, he was conflicted, thinking about using it. Ultimately decides to give his ring back to MJF. So I'm just like, okay. So all of a sudden Garcia turns around, takes a big hidden blade, flying elbow to the face. Ospreay 1, 2, 3 retains the International Championship. MJF is pissed, and they were like, MJF unknowingly or unintentionally cost Garcia the match. So Garcia was dejected in the corner. Ospreay tried to console him. They left. MJF did likewise. Hugged him in the ring. Told the crowd, you know, respect him. They love you. Was eating it up. And then in just one swift moment, a low blow kick by MJF. Garcia's falling. You can see the demeanor on MJF. That prick, that scumbag is back. And he put on his ring, and Matt Menard tried to stop it, but he took the ring to the head as well. And MJF just clobbered him, Garcia, over the head, busted him open, hit him a number of times. It was great that he was wearing a white tank top because he wore his blood on his shirt. And to the point where he held Garcia by the throat and he looked into the camera saying that, "Did I restore the feeling? This is your boy." And yeah. So yeah, there was that. So yeah. So ultimately MJF hit a avalanche tombstone on Garcia, and officials tried to stop him. Christopher Daniels tried to stop him, to no avail. And Ospreay came back out. He was pissed. MJF goaded him in the ring before MJF left. Threw some trash on some fans, just bickering at fans. MJF is back. MJF is back. And it's great to see. Yeah. MJF, Ospreay, leading in the double or nut or all in. It's a great thing. Great thing. So yeah, that was Dynamite for you folks. So yeah. So Friday for Rampage, we got Sheeta versus Mariah May. Semifinals in the Owen. Now on Saturday, Collision. Jay White versus Hangman Page. Definitely will have to tune for that. And MJF is opening the show. So, we'll see what he may have to say. But the way Dynamite happened was the best in a long time. And it's great to see. Great to see. So we'll see. You love the build. You love for them to stick to it. Leading in the Blood and Guts later this month. So, yeah. We'll see, guys. But, yeah. Anyways, that was your AEW Dynamite review. Hope you guys enjoy it. If you did, again, click that subscribe if you haven't already. Click that like button in the corner. Leave a thumbs up. Helps out the video and the channel, of course. But yeah, Dynamite was fun. And can't wait to see how they build on this, going to Blood, Guts, and all in. So we'll see. We'll see, guys, but take care. See you guys next time. I made Joe to love. Happy 4th. Be safe, y'all. Peace.